Clock, call meeting to order. Roll call. We have everybody present. Additions to the agenda, looks like just those.
We have the second reading of the custodial job descriptions. That is the addition. So actually, that will become item F, and then reviewing the upcoming meetings will become item G.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with additions.
I have a motion from Bruce,
I'll second.
a second from Maggie. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Carried. Public comment? Looks like nobody here for public
Logan, are
comment.
you here for public comment?
I'm fine.
All right. Consent agenda. Matt, I'll go to you just to cover all these.
Sure. Cheryl, do you want to take financial
Cheryl,
items
start.
first?
Bills.
Yeah, I messed up and didn't get into the office in time. They closed early, which I don't blame them. They've been really busy. But I did look through all of the bills and I had a few questions. I talked to Matt before the meeting and everything seemed to be in order.
Several personnel items are on the agenda. There's a variety of things. A few of them I just want to highlight. So Garrett Grace, technology integrationist, is accepted a job elsewhere, so he's resigning. That job will be posted very soon. The plan would be to fill that. And then we also have Don Canola and Kelly Whaler are on the consent agenda as resignations. Those are resignations of student activities. That is not a teaching resignation. And a lot of that is precipitated by Ms. Canol's retirement and stuff. It's going to be very difficult, obviously, for her to continue with those activities. And we have retirement from Cheryl Bunga, and the rest of those cases, a lot of them are summer related. So when you look at contracts for Melissa Ball Warner, Lynn Bierman, Lori Nepson, those are all summer food service. Katie Welly is also summer food service. Jerome Fegum is the fitness center hours are what's on there. And then we have Jesse Rasmussen, who is the recommendation for filling the Dean of Students position. I do just want to clarify a couple things with that. I know there was a little bit of confusion. What I included on here is actually Jesse's notice of assignment. That is not necessarily, his Dean of Students contract. So Jesse essentially is going to be a teacher on special assignment. And what his assignment will consist of would be half-time instructor, still in our high school science department. And then the other half-time would be Dean of Students role. In addition to that, then Jesse would also have 16 additional days on his contract. That would allow for some days in summer, either before teachers report, and then also at the end of his school year to wrap things up as far as discipline reporting and such is concerned. That's required by the state. So that's Jesse's assignment that is on there. There was a little bit of confusion about, does this mean we have a full-time Dean of Students? No, that's not the case. The Dean of Students position has never been full-time here, and it continues in that half-time capacity. Jesse will teach 2 blocks in the high school, and then the remainder of his time would be as Dean of Students.
My question is it a contract that has to be signed annually? Because it only specifies for academic year or the next academic year.
Yeah, so the reason why there's notice of assignments are actually issued every year. So in May, before all employees leave for the summer, they all get a notice of assignment for the next school year.
Okay.
They sign those basically indicating that they're intending to return to the school district the following school year. So this notice of assignment would be no different.
It's no different. Okay. I was just curious why it wasn't longer.
Right.
Okay.
Any questions as far as the consent agenda is concerned?
As far as Jesse, will we at some point get more of a description of his job? And
Yeah, so that's one of the things that the district has not had a job description for Dean of Students. So yes, I am working on that. My intent was to actually get that to the board in draft form yesterday. That hasn't happened, but it is coming. I would suspect that would be a first reading in July and then a final approval in August. Is what I would be thinking for that.
as far as the pay scale, then will we get a definition of, Dean of Students is this portion and teaching is this portion?
Yeah, so
Because it can't be switched around, I'm sure if need be that the teachers need to be switched around.
well, in general, the way it's going to work out is the teaching assignment is 0.50 FTE.
Yeah.
And then the dean of students is 0.5875. So it's a total of 1.0875, and that's how you get the 200-day contract. A teacher's contract is 184 days. So when you add those 16 days on, that's usually up with that decimal. So I don't think that part of it necessarily would change per se. I think the teaching assignment would always be half-time teacher. I suppose, the district could always reevaluate in the future as far as if there's a need to reduce from 16 days or add from 16 days, and that portion could change.
I was just wondering if the dean of students pay is the same as a teacher's pay.
Yeah, it's based on the teacher's master agreement.
Okay, that was my question.
Yeah, so I mean, as, for instance, if Jesse or whoever is teaching the students, if they're placed on MA plus 10 lane and they go back and get 15 more graduate credits and then make a lane change, the salary is always going to be based on whatever cell they're in for the teacher's master agreement.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion from Bruce. I will second that. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Carried. Communication items.
So I think all eyes right now are on the state legislature. MDE has been actively sending out notices to school districts as far as potential government shutdown. It's very clear that the staff at MDE are not considered critical employees. And so if there is any sort of a government shutdown, partial or full, most likely that means that MDE staff will be sent home and will not be working, which the issue becomes without staff at MDE working, they can't process district payments. The funds will still be there and it's appropriated, but the problem is the personnel to actually disperse those to the actual school districts aren't there. And so payments then would cease. Thankfully, we're sitting in a very good position. We have a fund balance. So we certainly are able to be able to weather a government shutdown. Now, if we got into a situation where there was no budget in July, in August, in September, then it would look different. I don't anticipate that that's really where things are at. I did get a notice today, and I think maybe board members got the same thing, but there is an agreement on a pre-K-12 budget. Be a 2.45% increase on per pupil age year 1. And I think it's 1.5% year 2. So there's a global agreement, and it sounds like the education bill for the most part is done. Now the issue is, my understanding, the way the special session will end up is all of the funding bills need to be taken care of, and then they will go as a package to the House, as a package to the Senate, and then like a package to the governor. When that actually wraps up, I think is yet to be determined, because there are some other major bills that they do not have full agreement on yet. So, but I think it's promising news that the K-12 bill has reached agreement, because usually that's one of the last ones. So I'm thinking potentially, yes, we could still see some form of a shutdown, but I don't anticipate that it would be something that'd be lengthy in duration. Obviously, if you walk around the building, you can see we're in summer mode, and the buildings and ground staff is getting around and turning the building over and cleaning and doing everything they do in the summer. This building has a major cabling, wiring update that's going on right now. So all of the old Cat 5 cables getting pulled out, and they're putting Cat 6, the new cable in, which will help our network perform better. As soon as they're done here, the same company going over to do the exact same work over at the elementary school. So both buildings will get new Cat 6 cabling pulled this summer, and that work is going.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
What's the longevity of wiring like that? Like,
I think the actual longevity of how the wiring I don't think it's a wiring breakdown and the deteriorating
Right.
issue. I think it's more that
Technology.
as you need more capacity, that's what's really precipitating the upgrade. It's always looking at, okay, what's our siphon point in our
Right.
building for our network to operate? And as, you're moving more data, that's
Right.
really what precipitates the wiring upgrade. So I would be completely guessing as to when this either building last had a cabling update. I would bet it's been
Years.
probably.
I have no idea.
Yes.
I was just curious how long, like, before you have to upgrade, or I
Right.
was just curious, like,
By the looks of it, to me, it was there and new wire went right in over the top of it.
Yep.
And now we're cleaning out.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. They're pulling out the old stuff as they pull in the new stuff. So, so yeah, that, as soon as they're done here, they'll head over to the elementary school and do the same thing, over there. And, yeah, things are going. Obviously, also, this is, I think, potentially my last board meeting here. So, thank you to all of you. It's been, an honor and a privilege, and I think, there's definitely been disagreements. And I think the thing that I will take away is we could all disagree with dignity and integrity intact, and that's important. But at the end of the day, putting all the disagreements aside and everything, I think looking at where things sit today compared to where they were 3 or 4 years ago, I think things are in a better place, and it's really just the beginning. So I'm excited to be able to watch from 1,900 miles away to see what else happens. So it'll be fun to watch. So thank you. Thank all of you. That's what I got.
Well, thank you. If you can go around the table too, I imagine, and just, thank you for the years of service, and I think we all agree in that same sentiment that it is better now than it was before you started, and we're excited to kind of take that momentum and energy that you brought into this district and move it forward, and we're excited to see from 1,900 miles away the new level of excitement and energy you bring to a new district.
So I appreciate it.
I never would have believed in 3 years that we could have started, not only started, but kept going to a great extent. Our innovation centers, what a change. And our CTE is completely switched around and moving in the right direction. It's been exciting. I couldn't have believed you could do it that fast. You really, not so much surprised me as impressed me.
Thank
You
you.
did a beautiful job.
Thank you.
It's been what I would call transformative leadership.
yes.
What we've experienced under you. Like, you're right, 3 years ago, I would have never seen us being in the position that we are today. You've helped build that trust in the community relationships have been at the top of your mind. People so appreciate the live streams and all that you do. And I guess that's not something I expected, and people are so impressed with your leadership. It's a big loss for us, but we're so happy for you and your new endeavor. But yeah, you're a transformative leader. We've been lucky to have you.
I agree. I've shared this with you before. One of my first interactions with you, I wasn't on the board yet. I had said, oh my gosh, like, how are you able to already make so many changes? And you kind of were stunned by that. Like, why wouldn't I? Every day we don't make changes, our kids are impacted. It makes me emotional. And you've shown that the whole time. It's always been about our, gosh, why? Sorry. But it's always been about our students. And that's why I'm on board. Is like, our students matter, they're first. And I felt great comfort in knowing that every decision made, whether it's super tough ones, it was always about our students. And I so appreciate that as a leader. I've learned a tremendous amount from you. You've been a great mentor to me. And, I always say this, positions can be replaced, people cannot. And you've set us up for great success. And I'm very, very grateful, probably on behalf of all our students and parents. So thank you.
Thank you.
I would say that in spite of all the good things that have happened, I think the biggest thing you did, you got us through COVID. Yeah, but to be able to get us through that, a lot of districts are in a lot worse shape now than we are. There's a lot more anger in a lot of districts. I don't feel that here at all. I feel like people were on board and you led us through that. And who knows what else might have happened for COVID. You probably would, I don't know. I mean, all the changes we made, but that was a tough year, and appreciate the leadership getting us through that.
Thank you.
You have done an absolutely excellent job as far as I'm concerned. Just a couple of points I'd like to make is, one is, when you started, we would be going down this path of growth, right? And all of a sudden it would come to the board that it looked like it wasn't gonna work. But you always had a backup. You'd say, so we're sitting at the board meeting and it's like, oh, not one of these, now we got a dead end. Boom, just like that, we're on another path. It's kind of when you set up some of the training things for the kids in the other schools. You always had a backup plan and you could foresee if we were hitting a snag and you would move forward. The other most interesting one I thought was when we were doing something new or doing something a little different, you said something on the order of, it will work fine if we don't make it too difficult for the students. Like put up a bunch of ridiculous barriers that didn't need to be there in the first place. But it's kind of a common thing for schools. Put up ridiculous barriers and you can't move forward. But those were interesting things, but always kept us on the path of moving forward. So we're gonna miss you. You did a great job here.
I appreciate that. It's been a good 3 years and, yeah. I do not, I do, I feel a little guilty about leaving after 3 years because that was never my intent and so on. But it is what it is, like that.
I wish you the best.
You bet.
Before we move on, can I just ask, as we move forward, we've got a lot of stuff going on now. And can you give us some assurance on what's happening? I don't even know what positions yet. I know we have activities, we've got ground, we've got Eric's position. What other teaching positions do we have open and how is that being carried out?
So we're in the process of filling a science position. In fact, those interviews were done. I believe Mr. Orlane's working on communicating with the candidate that they would like to bring to the board. So that would be a position in July. There are some interventionist positions that Ms. Holmberg's working on as part of our ADSIS grant that was approved. So those are in the pipeline. We're going to be getting a posting out for the tech integrationist. I think there's some internal interest in that position. So I could very easily see that being an internal position, which is going to have a ripple effect, meaning there's going to be a different opening. And then we're going to have a activities director and buildings and grounds director position that's going to be coming. And I have been in contact with BBE about sharing a buildings and grounds director. They're very interested in that. So they're going to get some financial specs to me on that. I have multiple ideas on the activities director. So those are going to be coming as well. I would expect that the board would see all of that stuff by 4 p.m. on Thursday. Okay.
What about choir director, choir music?
There's an actual plan in place for that.
Okay.
Yeah, I have been visiting with Ms. Bunham on that. And that one, actually, there's a plan in place and expect to see an action item in July.
Okay.
On that one. Yeah. So I agree, Rick, there are things, there's moving parts and openings.
Yep.
But I think there's also things in the works that are very close to coming to the board to be able to move forward on. Okay.
All right, old business, district goals.
So we can just take a real quick snapshot at this. I just wanted to let the board know that we are moving forward with shared services. Right now, that in the planning process is payroll services. I did meet with BBE this week. And the plan is to move forward with combining payroll services starting with the 22-23 school year. So that's going to be about a year from now is when that will go into effect. So do expect that second semester of the upcoming year, we're going to start doing some trial runs and start working with BBE. I think there's going to probably be some slight modifications that both district offices and both districts are going to need to do in order to make the payroll process look very similar in both. We're running the same software, the same payroll software, so it's that part's easy. But it's really just making sure that the data is all clean data that goes to the payroll department. We just want to make sure that that process looks similar in both districts. And I think that's something that's going to be easy. In July, there will be a complete shared service agreement with BBD and Paynesville. You can expect to see the district assessment coordinator on that. You can expect to see that the business manager piece will be incorporated. You guys have already approved that. And then buildings and grounds, most likely will be on that document as well. So that is moving forward.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
So in regards to like the software that we use, we usually have that software a long time, right? Is anybody up for RFP in the near future that would be an issue where we'd have to agree on the same one, or is that kind of a far out?
No, so actually that, so I want to say, when did we bring Infinite Campus into Paynesville? That was the same year that BDE
Okay,
brought
so-
out the same software in that Paynesville's using for payroll. So those two are now, our payroll software is all aligned. I want to say that was 2 years ago is when that happened.
So nobody's gonna be changing anytime soon?
No, okay, no. And then the only other thing I just want to highlight on here is implementation. So the letters professional development is all ready to go and will be rolled out in August. Will be the first date. And then that will be a 2-year literacy commitment that the district is making for all instructors in elementary and middle school. And then we also have what we're calling a literacy boot camp, which would be a professional development opportunity available for, again, elementary, middle school, and even high school teachers if they are interested. And that will be bringing Dr. Kim Gibbons from the University of Minnesota out to work with our teachers for a day on kind of the foundations of quality literacy instruction. So those two are being implemented. In fact, I think this week, I believe the materials for all that professional development started to arrive. So.
Is that something we ever share with another district or invite another district to come?
So for instance, like the U of M and Dr. Gibbons,
Mhm.
so we are extending that to all of our West Central Ed,
Okay, good, okay.
colleagues. I don't know, Mary would know more as far as what the interest level. I know it sounded like each district was talking about sending a few people. But yeah, something like that, you know, as far as I'm concerned, if we could get half of our auditorium full, that'd be great.
Right, or even the homeschool like to extend if we're bringing in this resource.
Yeah.
It'd be neat to see what they utilize.
The other thing that is just ongoing conversation, facility open house. We have talked about that as a group. That continues to move forward. Miranda is working closely with Michelle Schmitz from the Community Foundation on that. So look for more details as we get closer to probably that middle of July on that open house piece.
I've gotten a lot of excitement from people when I said, we're going to have an open house, you have to come.
And you know,
They're all excited.
it was interesting. So SiteLogic was out yesterday and did some promotional reporting and stuff. And so they're getting to the point now where they're doing all the finishing touches in there and they're getting all the cabinetry in and the countertops and you're starting to see now final product and it's gonna be nice. Yeah, it's gonna be very nice. So exciting. So that's what I have for an update there.
Great, new business, public hearing, property tax abatement request.
Do you want me to run the public hearing?
What's that?
I will.
Yeah.
Okay,
Why don't we?
so we're here for a public hearing. Is there anyone in the public who wants to address the board? I don't see anybody. Okay, so let me talk about just some details, overview. Logan can certainly answer questions as well. So Lewis Industries has approached the district about a tax abatement proposal. That tax abatement would abate roughly in the ballpark of just over $7,000 of property taxes, school property taxes annually for a term of 9 years, a maximum term of 9 years. That would begin taxes payable in 2022 and it would end in taxes payable 2030. The estimated abatement would be roughly just shy of $67,000. I have talked to the city of Paynesville, the city administrator. They are also taking the same proposal up. He does anticipate that there will be some approval on the abatement proposal, whether that's approval in full as written or in some form or modification. He was uncertain of that. I did also check in with the county, and the county is in support of the proposal as well and is planning on approving the proposal as planned. My recommendation to approve the abatement plan as it has been submitted.
So move.
I have a motion from Bruce. Should we read this whole thing out loud?
If you want to read the first,
Should we read that first?
Tax abatement one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Motion from Bruce to approve the resolution for adoption of the tax abatement resolution, Independent School District 741, one across the street, on June 22nd of 2021.
I'll second.
And a second from Jake. Is there any further discussion? With that, we'll do a roll call. And
Bruce,
Aye.
Rick,
Aye.
Jake,
Aye.
Maggie,
Aye.
Cheryl,
Aye.
Thomas.
aye. All members voting for, no abstaining, the motion passes. And then budget.
Thanks, Logan.
Thanks, Logan.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
You're committed to volunteering to coach basketball now for the next 9 years.
I got a little
I think
brain
so.
on my head, right in there.
Clearly didn't read the fine print.
No, you. I'm sure I had sixth grade this year, probably had fourth grade too.
Good thing to keep the community going.
Preliminary budget for 21-22. So it is the board's responsibility to have a preliminary budget adopted by June 30th. The budget that's in front of you is unchanged from the work session in June. This is a conservative estimate. I do anticipate that annual fund balance in Fund 1, top right number, that deficit will decrease. A variety of factors are going to go into that. Number one being our access grant being approved. And then second of all, with the personnel moves that are still needing to happen, particularly with some late resignations and stuff, I do believe there will be some cost saving measures that will come. I can't say to the board that those cost saving measures will be multiple years in length, but I do know that since where we're sitting today, as in entering July, some of the solutions that are going to come as recommendations in July would probably be for a 1-year solution. Well, then the board and the district would be able to reevaluate and put together a long-term solution in January or February. But there will be some cost savings associated with those. So I would anticipate that number would decrease. Questions as far as the budget is concerned? Again, a lot of this is fluid because it's gonna really depend on what we end up with enrollment come September. And I mean, to give you an idea, if you end up with 10 more students than what we are budgeting with, you're looking at $100,000 more in revenue. And so it doesn't take a lot of fluctuation to dramatically impact where this preliminary budget goes. So know that that's also a factor that we obviously experienced decline in enrollment due to COVID. I would suspect that some of that is going to start to return, but we won't know that until school starts.
I'm looking for a motion to approve the preliminary 21-22 budget as presented.
I'll make a motion to.
Motion from Maggie, a second from Cheryl. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Carried. C 21-22 memberships, contracts, and Go ahead, Matt.
So there are two contracts here. There are two motions associated with item C. So the first one is Schools for Equity and Education. In my opinion, C does one of the better jobs as far as keeping tabs of what goes on at the Capitol and really just everything that's happening in St. Paul and how it impacts schools. I would recommend that the board continue with that membership. The invoice is attached in the resources. And then the second one is our Minnesota State High School League membership. So the State High School League had a rather large finance work group that did a lot of work this year. They did propose a completely revamped fee structure. And it is going to be dramatically different than what was in the past. In the past, schools had a per high school membership fee, and then they also paid a certain activity fee for every activity that they offered. Those were really the two components of it. Those two components are staying starting next year. So it's going to be $100 per school. Since we have one high school, we'll have $100 for membership fee. And then for every activity that we offer, we will be billed $225 for each of those. And then on top of it, we will take the Minnesota State High School League enrollment number and multiply that by $6.35. And when you add those three components up, that will be the fee that will be assessed for Paynesville area schools. It will be dramatically more than what we have been paid in the past. The State High School League is trying to get to a situation where they are getting a more balanced approach to covering their costs through user fees and not strictly relying only on tournament revenue. That the old system was very dependent upon tournament revenue in order to subsidize and buy down the actual cost of activities. That works well right up until you can't have tournaments and you have no revenue coming in because of that. So there's a dramatic shift that is going on. From a distance looking at this, I would say that I think the thing I like about this is the $635 per student fee. That is a flat per student fee. If you've got 100 students, your fee is $685. If you've got 1,000 students, you obviously have a $6,000 fee.
So it's not per student per activity, it's one student counts for
Nope.
as amount as, okay.
Correct. Yep. And they don't care about how many students participate in activities. It's not your participation number. It's just simply your enrollment number. So
This is 7 through 12 or 9 through 12?
so this is based on 10 through 12 enrollment. And that's the same numbers that they use to do all the different classifications. So like class A, AA, AAA, those are all based on
10 through 12, not 9.
It's their 10 through 12 high school league enrollment, not school enrollment.
Correct. Yep. Yep.
What is our number about?
Oh, I knew you
That's-
were.
Sorry.
There you go, right? I was gonna ask you.
Figure out, sorry.
200.
It's okay.
Yeah, I would.
That's what I guessed.
Number 220 comes from us.
How many graduated this year? And
Mm.
I had put in 200 in my brain too, but I don't know.
That's what I was guessing.
So just know that it's different. The other thing the State High School League's been very clear about is obviously if tournaments do get back and they start generating the revenue that they used to generate, most likely the State High School League then is gonna have a surplus. And so the finance task force also has addressed that. And there is a tool in place as to when they have a surplus, how they will distribute that surplus.
That was my next question. Assuming tournaments go back in, and now they're gonna have a gigantic form of revenue back in their tournaments plus the additional fees, so are there, yeah.
Yep, and so they have now a process in place as to how they will return that surplus back to its member schools once they implement that. I think over time, this is a starting point for the high school league. You're probably gonna see in the next 3 to 5 years, you're probably gonna see some maneuvering with this to get it to where it works for everybody, but this is where they're starting.
And we have no choice in the matter.
Yeah.
Not unless you want to go and look for teams in North Dakota to play.
Yeah. So are you looking for?
So we need two
Two
motions.
motions?
Yep,
So we're
so,
gonna handle this in two separate functions?
correct.
So I will do the first one.
So motion,
Motion to approve the membership in the Schools for Equity for 21-22 school year.
motion from Bruce,
Second,
second from Cheryl. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Carried. Now we'll look for motion to introduce the resolution for adoption of the Minnesota State High School League membership.
So move.
A motion from Bruce.
second,
Second from Cheryl. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Or is this a roll call?
Oh,
It is a.
it is roll call. Yep,
Yeah.
all right, yep, there's a resolution.
Roll call.
That's right. Whenever you're ready there.
Bruce,
Aye.
Rick,
Aye.
Jake,
Aye.
Becky.
Aye.
Daryl.
aye,
Aye. Motion carried, or resolution carried. C, operating referendum.
So I have been in conversation with Jody and Greg from Ellers regarding our last operating referendum conversation. They too are monitoring what's happening at the Capitol, and their recommendation to this point is to have the board identify the direction they would like to go. And they will then prepare, in conjunction with our legal counsel, they will prepare the appropriate resolutions with the goal of getting that to the July board meeting for the board to take action on. So at this point, what we would just need is if the board is wanting to move forward with a 2021 operating referendum, we would just need to know the details of that. And then you would need to direct the administration to prepare for that referendum. And by doing so,
I'll make that motion.
Ellers will be done now.
I have a motion from Bruce,
I'll second that.
and a second from Cheryl. Further discussion? So is this point in time, do we need to have that clear before we finalize the vote that of whether?
And so I just want to make sure that my recommendation would be that the board go $531 per pupil and link it to inflation for a term of 10 years. Is that the motion?
Yep,
Okay,
it's exactly what we talked about.
Yep, I just want to make sure that was the part that I wanted to
Yep.
have clear within this for everybody, so. Any further discussion on that then? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say no. Carried.
I do have a question. So now it's approved, will we have to have another motion, obviously, about what actually goes on the ballot, right? Once that.
yeah, so there's going to be a series of actions
things
that the
that-
board's
okay.
going to need to take. The first one that you're going to do is in July, you will have a resolution calling for an election.
Mhm.
And in fact, you're going to have multiple ones of those because you're also going to have a special election for a vacant board seat. So you can expect a couple of election resolutions. After that is done, then we're going to do a preliminary ballot. The board's going to have to at some point then approve the ballot question as well. And there's a timeline, our attorney will get us the timeline in which all of these things have to be accomplished. But you're going to have multiple action
Okay.
steps now that are going to be associated with this.
All right, E, 2021 technology levy.
So the technology levy, that's the second piece to this that the board has been talking about as well. There has been conversation about there are 2 years left, so calendar year 22 and calendar year 23 are still left on the existing capital levy, tech levy. There's been conversation, is the board wanting to link these operating and capital levies together so that they are on the same timeline? If that's the preference, I really see two ways that the board can go about doing that. The first one would be, since you are going to put an operating question on the ballot, you could simply put a capital levy, technology levy on the ballot as well, and then approve it, have it be approved for the same number of years that you're operating as. You could go up to 10 years on those as well. And so then they would all come up on the same time. The other way to approach it would be to just do the operating now, leave the tech levy where it's at. You still have 2 more years on it. And then when 2 years comes up, go back to renew your tech levy, but rather than do it for a 10-year term, do that for an 8-year term, because that's how many years are gonna be left on your operating referendum. And then at the end, as your operating referendum is going to get ready to sunset, your tech levy would be sunsetting at the same time. So that's the question. I think this one, maybe there was a little more differing opinions versus the operating one. It sounded like there was consensus. Maybe this one might have some more.
And I'll be bold, just like I was before. I believe the operating needs to be done, no matter what. I do not want to tangle it up, and going forward as you do your voting, you're either gonna have to have a roll call or you have to announce my name specifically that I dissented when you take the vote. I can't mix them. I know I can justify that in my mind, but we have come through COVID, people are concerned. We have a lot of things going on. Everybody's paying more for a lot of what they buy for their normal living. I just don't think it's the right time to be doing it. And I just have always been, for my time on the board, I've always been very protective of those operating levies. That has to happen. And I don't want anybody to look at it and say, oh, so it's 531 here and that's another X amount here and lump the two together. I know that'll happen when they're standing in the voting polls. I just don't think we should do that. As far as going back and asking them a second time, I don't have any trouble with that. The public can tell us what they want. It's our job to sell them on that. Just because we want to make two of them go together, I don't know that I see the benefit of that. I think our contact with the government and being totally clear about it is as much or more important than having to group something together.
On that notion, what's your feeling then in regards to if we go back, say, 1 year or 2 years down the road and ask for that tech levy? Do we run an 8-year term then, lump them together then, or is your opinion of this point that we're just always going to keep them separate? We're always going to be 2 years apart, and every time we go back, we're always going to be 2 years apart. And I'm just asking that as a just general question.
And that's not something that I was aware of as a possibility.
Yeah.
I'd have to think about that.
Yeah.
I would always be tending to keep it separate.
Mhm.
I think part of a school board going to the public on a regular basis doesn't always have to be monster amounts. And we have one thing we need to work on and one message to get across. So we have to go 2 years from now for this. We should probably do it a year early anyway on the tech levy. It's just not a problem for me. I don't mind having people come in and ask about it. It's very clear. This is what we did. This is what's changed. This is kind of what we want to do to move forward. I just can't mix the two. If anybody takes a look at it, and if we have people that are upset about their cost of living at the moment, or have not had good luck getting through this COVID. I mean, so maybe we all have occupations and jobs or income coming in. There are people that have had lots of trouble. I think we need to be aware of that. But we kind of don't have any choice with the operating levy.
Yes.
We need to get that in place, and I just don't have a problem with being one.
What are the thoughts on the board, on the, like, how do I say it, like the next superintendent, should they have a weigh in on this? Would it be easier for the decision to be made prior to them coming in, like we've already decided? Or would it be helpful for them to be part of the conversation and what their feedback is as they're gonna have to be out in the public talking about it too? I was just curious, like, is that something that we could?
What's the timeline?
And yeah, when does Ellers,
Because I mean, if we
right,
August, we could wait.
could wait to
Sure.
do this vote in July and then still adopt the resolution in August if we decide to move forward.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure I understand the question.
okay.
Is the question that you want to hold off and wait to address the operating referendum and the tech levy?
No,
Or
just
know that you're going ahead with the
Right.
operating?
I'm just saying, is there value in that? And would it be
Yeah.
something to consider that, yes, I think we all 100% agree in operating, that
Yeah.
has to go. But I'm just saying, would there, like, what is the comfort level? I'm not saying recommending we do this, but I think we should have a conversation. Would there be value with the next superintendent? Because if it is a question that we're not certain of, having their support and guidance and weigh in, would that matter? Or is it easier for that incoming superintendent to say, we've already decided, this is what you're.
So the timeline is 74 days prior to election day. That is the deadline for the board to decide.
Election day or the day we have to
Election day.
submit? Okay.
So if you take 74 days
August.
back, that's gonna walk you into August
August,
somewhere. I
okay.
can't remember the exact date.
It's 20, it's August 20th.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's the absolute deadline.
Okay.
So there is time. You could certainly make this decision in July. And getting to Bruce's point, now, this is obviously today's estimation. But what we were talking about for tech levy was revoking our existing authority and putting in a tax rate that generated $365,000 annually in revenue. You can see what kind of tax impact we're talking about here.
Very.
Annual.
Annual tax
Impact.
impact for the average home is $1 per month. That's the annual
Right.
tax impact, $1 per month. Now, these are going to obviously increase because this is tied to net tax capacity, and as that increases, the revenue increases. If you wait 2 more years, then rather than generating $365,000 in revenue, you're probably gonna wanna generate $385,000. But I think they're gonna grow pretty together. So I don't think this tax impact is gonna be dramatically different if you would wait 2 years from now. Now, if all of a sudden the board recalculated and took the positions that I currently have lumped in here to say we want to pay for these out of our tech levy, that's how I'm coming up with 365. If a bunch of other stuff is lumped in there, and now you want to ask for 665 or some other much larger number, that's going to dramatically impact your tax impact. But realistically, if you do the operating referendum and then 2 years later you go back for the tech levy question, I don't see the tech levy question being a dramatic tax impact. I think you're still gonna be in that ballpark of $1, $1.25 per month is what, for the average homeowner.
Mhm.
So is your concern, Bruce, more the dollar amount or people feeling confused?
I think a lot of people aren't gonna get our communication. So the more straightforward that ballot is, describing exactly what's going on, that's what I like. Somewhere you're gonna have to say in the ballot that you're dropping a 296,000, you're adding a 365. What's their interpretation of that? Some people might take and add the two numbers together. Some people may just take the 365 and assume it's a 365, but it's really not. But independently, I think we can handle that because we're not mixing it all up. But I have asked around a fair amount, talked to various groups of ages of people, and nobody seems to mind if we're coming back. I'm not finding people that are complaining that we're coming back regularly because we are very specific. When we put out the big deal, we were very specific on what was going on with that. People appreciated that. And the operating levy, we have to have, we can't take a chance. If for some reason there's any misinterpretation and that baby doesn't pass, we got one more shot at it and we're in, what do they call it when you run out of money?
Statutory operating.
Statutory operating. I just want to be there. Getting out of, Cheryl remembers, and Rick, I think you were maybe on the tail end of that. There was a lot of uncomfortable stuff going on. We just had no choice in that. It was disgusting.
I appreciate you, the three of you have a lot more historical context to what has happened. So I appreciate you sharing that because I wouldn't know like what those conversations were at the board level. It's a tough question because like it's depending on how you view it, if it's going to be less confusing or more confusing. I think we're gonna have confusion either way. I think people aren't gonna also get that we're coming back in 2 years. They're not gonna remember that it was operating versus tech. So I think both ways we're potentially gonna be facing confusion, right? And both times the challenge is gonna be communication. And so to me, the question is it easier to do that in one time versus two separate times? That's kind of the question that I am
And that's,
wrestling with.
and that's kind of what I've wrestled with too, but Bruce, I think you've done an excellent job of explaining that and in that sense of being very clear with one message, one conversation right now, and then it's really, as soon as that conversation's done, vote passes and we move on to life, we can start regular board meeting conversations of what we're gonna be looking at for a tech levy in 2 years, so it's not a deal that this is a big surprise necessarily. And then when we go to that tech levy vote, is again, it's one pamphlet of information about a tech levy that this is what we're gonna do. And whether we want to try to have conversation with the general public to say, would this be better to do one vote in 10 years or 8 years from now, or should we just keep this separated? Should we separate it by 5 years? Can we do a tech levy for 3 years? And then every 5 years, we're doing operating then tech and then operating then tech. We've got that flexibility in mind if we wanted to hold off on this right now. And I appreciate that explanation.
I do too. And potentially we could, if we did wait, I'm not saying we would, but we could ask the community, we could do a survey and say, how do you want, these are two levies that we're gonna be coming, updating always. Would you prefer it to be separated? And I think part of the communication is, these are always gonna happen. But maybe asking what their threshold is, and that's a way also that we're sharing, this is gonna continue. I don't know if there's value, means a lot of things you read say there's value in doing a survey and seeing where people are at, or.
Well, if it's agreeing with this board, is this just a topic that we can table to July? How
Yeah,
about that?
so, the only thing that you need to do, if you want to get going on the resolution to call for a tech levy question, you need a motion and a second and an approval with directions right here.
Yep.
If you don't want to do that, then let's just go on to the new item F.
What's everyone
As soon
else
as
think?
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it.
If I can say something, the other thing I think I'll throw into this is we'll have a new superintendent. And he or she is gonna have to lead this. Is it easier for them to just work on the one and then try, I'm trying to make it, we got a lot going on here.
Yep.
I agree with Bruce. I think it's gonna be a psychological thing. Some people are gonna see two things on the ballot. They don't look at the figures necessarily. They'll say, oh, they're asking for two things now. They're asking. So maybe just for that reason, it would be easier to bring a new superintendent in and work on one thing and then let that person help us on the one. And then also get some feedback from them on the tech levy. Maybe we'll have a different idea in a year from now. And we'll say, oh, maybe we need more, or maybe there's a different direction.
Yeah. And so I think if we're all in agreement, let's skip this. No further discussion with this tonight. And then if we want to bring it up in our meeting next month, we can bring it up and discuss it some more. When we have a new superintendent and have that for the discussion at a later date. But at this point in time, let's just move on to item F.
Well, Jacob, are you
Yeah.
okay with this?
I'm
Like,
totally-
are you-
Yeah, that's insane.
everybody's-
Yeah, it really feels strong to move it away.
Just fine.
Let's go to item F then.
The new item.
The new item F. Yeah, the new item F, the F is gonna be, yeah.
So second reading of the job descriptions for the custodial job descriptions, so there have been no changes to these. The buildings and grounds director job descriptions, head building custodian job description, maintenance custodian job description, and general custodian. Be my recommendation to approve all four of these. That can be done with one motion if the board so desires.
So move.
I have a motion from Bruce. I will second that. Is there any further discussion?
I have a question.
Yep.
I feel like I say that a lot. And so with potentially like with BBE, do we want to approve some of that right now, or it wouldn't change? That's just the
Yeah,
question I
no,
have, like what,
I think what you should still approve
Okay.
the head.
because all the other ones are
buildings
in
and
there.
grounds job description.
Okay,
Yes, if we're gonna, basically what we would be doing is contracting out for that.
okay,
So.
So it'd be
that wouldn't
separate.
necessarily be following our job description, but
Okay.
if at a year from now or 2 years from now, the board wants to hire their own buildings and grounds director.
Position
The
approved.
job description.
Okay.
is there. So I would still approve it regardless of the possibility that might happen.
okay, makes sense.
I like to view it as a working document.
Yep.
Like we do a lot of things. We're starting something new. We might find a couple years down the road, we're saying, okay, we need to kind of do this to make it better. That's what you would do, Matt.
Yeah.
And I think this gives us the start of getting that set up.
I was just wondering if you'd had much feedback from the custodial and maintenance staff on the movement.
No, so I met with, all of the custodians, in the district prior to talking about reorganization and all of that. We had a very good conversation about that and kind of, where things are moving and what that will probably look like. But no, I have not had any feedback on any of this up to this point.
I'm sure if there was a lot of negativity, you would have heard.
I would think so.
Somewhere
Yeah.
along the line, someone
Yeah.
would have gotten feedback.
Right.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Carried. Review upcoming meetings, essential ed.
So is everyone on the page as far as the rest of this week? You guys are all coming
Yep.
back every day this week, I think, so.
Yeah.
And well, at least then the three of us.
Okay, so Wednesday and Thursday interviews,
Yep.
Friday would be potentially negotiating a contract.
Yep.
And then that gets you through June.
Yep.
Is my understanding. And then July 12th is West Central at 6:30 PM up in Melrose. And then July 13th is the regular Board of Education business meeting at 6 PM. Right here in this room. Just remember, there is only one scheduled board meeting in July. So that is the only board meeting scheduled for July. So hopefully after a rugged June, we'll have a little,
Light July.
Relax.
there are some, yes.
I was gonna ask on that. So our Friday meeting, and so we as a 6-member board, we always go under your tutelage and direction and kind of have it. So our plan, essentially Thursday evening is assuming we can all agree on and decide to move forward with a candidate. Under that assumption, we're gonna, within that meeting, have a brief discussion on salary. Our Friday meeting is just a negotiations committee meeting to kind of finalize that superintendent, contract and dollar amount, whatnot. But we haven't necessarily set a negotiations meeting with a potential candidate yet. That's my understanding with everybody else, correct?
We're looking at 8 o'clock though for Friday potentially.
8 AM Friday, yep. So we would, at that point in time, Thursday, we would want to announce again, scheduled time for that negotiation.
I would assume Exec Connect would be still involved at that point, or are they?
Would they still come involved with the negotiation portion of it? Okay.
Okay.
Well, he'll probably tell us Thursday night what we,
Yeah.
what.
That's
announcements were made
interesting.
and all.
Another benefit of that one. That's on our own.
So just to make sure that we're good with open meeting law.
Yep.
So negotiation meetings are open and public meetings
Correct.
as a full committee.
Yep.
So Miranda will post an 8 AM Friday meeting first thing tomorrow morning.
Yeah, she's already got it posted.
It's already posted?
Yep.
Perfect.
Yep, we posted that on Monday after
Wonderful.
On it.
So
Friday, whatever it was.
So
Sunday.
you're already good.
Yep.
With that and yeah. And once a meeting is posted, you can always cancel a meeting.
Correct.
There's nothing wrong with that. But you just have to have that 3-day notice in order to have that. So, yeah.
And we can cancel with no notice essentially.
Yeah.
It'll just be a sign on the door at that point in time. So if we decide Thursday that there's no candidate, we can just cancel Friday morning's meeting and,
Or if the candidate can't make it.
or the candidate can't, well,
Well, the candidate-
we're not negotiating with the candidate on Friday.
Candidate won't-
That was not our intent. That was just the three of us just
You're
to
right. I'm sorry.
make sure the dust is all settled and we can breathe again, and then we'll set that meeting Thursday night to
Yep.
formally negotiate with the,
So then just please keep in mind that when you guys meet on Friday for that meeting, that if you're gonna try and meet with the candidate that you want to negotiate with, just make sure you have 3 days notice so that
Exactly.
Miranda can
Is
get
it
that
3
posted.
business days or is it 3
calendar days.
calendar?
I think it's pretty sure it's 3 business days.
Then
So-
we would coincide.
We would post Friday morning to schedule that meeting, say on Wednesday of the following week.
Schedule it for the following Thursday.
So yeah, we can do the following Thursday and yeah, whatever it happens to be. I think by the time we would agree with a candidate, it's very doubtful that any of the 3 candidates would disagree with us. I feel. So,
I think that you'll get through that without an issue.
yep.
And then it technically, if the board doesn't approve it till our meeting.
Correct.
And last time, we didn't call a special meeting, you just believed us.
You just believe that.
So, and then,
I would assume the same.
yeah,
Believe us.
yeah, and so Exec Connect will probably know how that works, but we've got 17 days till it comes through the board.
Yeah.
But you guys have to figure out what you think and
Perfect.
And all that data is something that we will get in advance, so if there's any questions in advance, so.
You guys will need a motion again on Thursday, is it?
Thursday, we'll have to make a motion. So that's what I was saying. Thursday, I think we could have we could have a ballpark together before we meet on Friday morning. To finish our Thursday evening out. As
Okay.
far as what that's just kind of has a rough feel to it.
General,
Yeah.
that would make,
Just a general term,
Good sense.
just so that, then we can look over more if we need to, look over the rest of the document, just to make sure there's nothing that we're really seeing, but I don't see a lot of changes needed necessarily within the document, but
Is-
Bob for.
Is
right.
Thursday
He's
a
gonna be there.
resolution
Mhm.
or is it a
You'll make sure we do it.
like for
Right.
bringing forward the finalist? Is that a resolution? Is that a roll call or is it
It
a,
would just be a motion.
it's just a motion? Okay.
I was maybe motion to it. The only other thing I wanted to discuss real quick here, so I did have a community member that's interested in filling a seat. So it's something we want to talk about maybe in July a little bit more. If we want to appoint this person, their intention is to run on the ballot. So I don't know if anybody else had any conversation with any of the community members or anybody else has approached them. But it is this person's intent to run in November, to fill that vacant seat. So I don't know, I know we have at least one candidate out there that's interested in doing that. If it's a deal where we in July or August would want to appoint that person to fill the seat until they are elected in November, they'd at least get a jump start on information ahead of running in November. And then it'd be their intent as well to run the following November for that seat again. So just a FYI to the board. So everybody kind of has an understanding where that's at on our 7th member. So.
I've been asked about it a number of times, I just said we were gonna put it on an election, so
Yep.
Yeah,
I didn't even open up the door.
Yeah, no,
Appointed.
Yep.
I just said we're gonna run in November and
this
get on the list.
community member mentioned it to me and then even just flat out asked was, any way they can get on the board before November. I said, well, essentially we could appoint
And even if,
them, then I don't know if there'd be any harm in appointing them.
if we don't appoint them, they can still come to all the meetings and
Yes.
be scared, and that shows an interest in the rest of the
Yes.
public.
Correct.
I really want
That's
this.
what
That
I
might
did.
be a little, we can talk about it another,
yeah.
Yeah, but just I wanted to give everybody that mindset while we're all together.
yeah.
So. And that would wrap up everything.
I move we adjourn.
A motion from Jake,
I'll second.
second from Cheryl. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Carried.